Name, sir? Dan, you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, I need a motion to approve and adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I heard 5-0. MSBA board report.
Part of the learning experience in many of our schools. Teachers are harnessing AI-powered tools to personalize education, tailoring lessons to meet each student's unique needs. In October, the Raymore Peculiar School District hosted an AI and Innovation Summit designed for educators, administrators, and tech enthusiasts to discover the latest advancements in AI for education and to explore practical applications. Raymore Peculiar Board President and MSBA immediate past President Ruth Johnson said that artificial intelligence is a topic that school boards need to address.
Well, we need to care because whether we like it or not, AI is here. It's been here. So how can we best utilize it as a tool with our teachers to help educate the students at all levels?
Emily Craig is an English teacher at Ray-Pec High School, and she says that having students involved in the process of integrating and questioning AI tools is an example of real-world learning that can help them in future careers.
You know, we always talk about what are those invaluables, those skills that students are going to need no matter what they're doing. And AI, real world learning, soft skills, all of those are going to be like how to manage and adapt are all going to be skills that kids are going to need no matter what they're doing. And so I think teaching them tools, learning how to question tools and also like embrace them, but also critique them in that process is going to be a lifelong skill no matter what they're doing.
Raymore Peculiar High School Assistant Principal Stephen Meek says that AI is a disruptor in education, but in a positive way.
We're always looking for disruptors, whether we want to believe it or not. We're always looking for disruptors in education to figure out how can we disrupt the classic, traditional education that has been going on in schools for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And I really hope that AI is going to be that disruptor so we can say, okay, let's stop doing this learning that we can easily create through AI, and let's start moving it to, things that like much more project-based, much more learning that students are going to need for the 21st, in the 21st century. Let's start figuring out like those types of things that makes learning more engaging, more fun, and we move away from that rote memorization.
During MSBA's AI Symposium, held in conjunction with the MSBA Annual Conference in Kansas City, students had a chance to speak to the audience about the ways that they use AI during a panel discussion. They stressed the real-world applications of AI and how schools can help prepare students.
I think that in the world we're going to live in the future, AI is going to be a huge part of that. So by outright saying it's cheating and allowing no AI, we're doing a disservice to our students, and we're almost handicapping them for the future. I do think that there is a line though where cheating can be seen, but that can be very, very much kind of minimized through changing your curriculum a little bit to like integrate AI and generative AI into it, or changing almost the assignments you're asking or what you're necessarily testing on, so that it's harder to use AI as an end-all be-all answer, and AI is less of I'll just plug in and get 100, and more of I'll use AI to help me get towards that answer, get towards my finished product.
If it was up to me, I think AI should be used regularly, because in the real world you're going to use AI, and AI is already used in so much stuff. It's not like it's just going to randomly be deleted, because it's basically used for almost anything and everything nowadays.
With new information coming out seemingly daily, it's difficult to stay on top of a topic as complex as artificial intelligence. MSBA is here to help. From beginner to advanced, MSBA's AI Toolkit for K-12 education is a great resource for topics ranging from AI policies and procedures and security concerns to ethics and equity. The toolkit is available on the MSBA website and is updated often. If you're still feeling unsure about the emergence of artificial intelligence or not sure where to start, MSBA has a webinar for you coming soon. The webinar is titled AI in Education, What School Leaders Need to Know, and it's being held Monday, January 13th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. MSBA's AI team will provide a balanced approach to the subject, highlighting both the positive and negative aspects of AI. The webinar is free for MSBA member districts. When you register for the webinar, make sure to submit questions and topics that you would like to see addressed. And as we head into 2025, make sure to mark your calendar for MSBA's Advocacy Day on March 11th, Summer Summit June 16th through the 18th, and the 2025 MSBA Annual Conference October 23rd through the 25th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thank you for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and thank you for your dedication and the amazing work that you've done throughout all of 2024. We'll see you in January 2025 for the next MSBA Board Report.
No one believed it at first.
Okay, hearing nothing, we have two public comments tonight. We have Monica Hepperman and Don Andrews. They both want to speak to the agenda item, evidence-based grading. And so Monica, you want to go first, please?
I just want to start out by saying, I appreciate that the school district is trying to challenge the kids and show growth in as many ways possible. Sorry. But my experience with this evidence-based grading is that it seems very complicated and very hard to follow, very hard to understand as a parent. My child has also expressed these concerns. He's been through it. He would ask his teacher, where am I at? I'm concerned I'm not doing good enough. And the teacher would say, no, you're fine. You're at a 1. You'll be where you need to be at the end of the year. Well, if you're not doing well at the beginning of the year, by the end of the year, you're in trouble. So that's a big concern. So the kids don't seem to know where anything's at. As a parent, I don't know where anything's at. It is complicated. I don't know how teachers could actually like this. I also have concerns with, kids moving over to the new high school. It's going to be a big change added on top of this. I would, in my experience in life, the simplest solution is the best. Parents know we've been doing the ABC grading system forever. Everybody knows where it stands. Everybody knows what it means. With everything going on and kids not liking it from what I know, parents not liking it from what I can see, I really encourage the school board to go back to the letter grading system.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Don, do you want to take your time, please?
Sure. How's everybody doing this evening? So I wanted to come up and address the board on this because I was part of the committee that did the research on this, on the evidence-based grading. One of my biggest concerns throughout the conversations we've been having on it, or that we were having on it, was that there's no accountability with this being one for the child. And then also, in theory, I do believe this can work. But when executed the way it's been executed, it's just been set up to fail. I believe that if we're going to do something like this as a district, we need to start slow, kindergarten, then the first, then the second. It's going to take 12 years to get it fully implemented in the school district. So that way, we're not taking students, our children, at mid-school level and just changing the whole realm of what they know about how they're going to be graded, how they're going to learn, all that. Just it baffles them, it baffles the parents, it causes undue stress on the child. in my family particularly. I can't speak for everybody's family. It causes, obviously stress with the parents trying to figure it out, trying to understand it. I'm getting emails constantly, my child's failing. I'm getting emails constantly that they're missing assignments. I'm getting told that assignments don't matter, just the tests matter. It's all part of the evidence-based grading, how it has been structured. I feel, I was on the committee, I did like it. I just feel that we executed it poorly. I think it needs, like I said, it needs to be executed slowly, and it's going to take time. All teachers are not on the same page, and that's one of the biggest things that the school district is going to need if they want to implement this type of program. Every teacher has got to think the same way with that evidence-based grading, and they don't. And so that's one of the biggest difficulties I'm seeing with it. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hearing me out. I would love to sit on the committee again if you guys want to revisit it, if anything's going to happen like that. Again, in theory, I believe it can work. It's just going to be a slow process to implement it school-wide. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughtful comments. I appreciate it. Okay, and then we'll address those when the agenda item comes up. Pardon me? Sir,
Are you taking any other public comments, or I didn't know this was a board meeting, I needed to do it in advance?
well, we can ask the board if we want to let you do it. You can be the last person. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Jay Lutz. I'm a reading math volunteer at Wright City Elementary East. I've been doing this for a couple, 3-4 years. It's a great program, but I've been noticing a greater percentage of kids whose first language is not English, mainly kids from Mexico. These are smart. I get the kids that are having trouble falling behind, and they're really struggling because the curriculum doesn't teach them English per se. So that's a specialized basis. It's a shame. These kids are smart kids, but their English is not an easy language to learn. And I don't know if you ever considered the idea of any specialized education for these kids. I would expect the problem to become more acute as we move forward, as more and more people move west. Just a thought.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move to the next agenda item. East presentation. Amy?
We'll do our volunteers first, so that's okay. We have amazing, Jay, you're one of them, come on in. And we have several wonderful volunteers that regularly come into the building, work one-on-one with our kiddos. And one of the best things I love about it is they are probably one of the biggest champions for our little guys. They'll get a number right and you hear them going, yes, you're so smart. So they leave being so filled up every time they sit next to both Susan and both Jay. And we just want to say thank you so much. We appreciate it. It means such, it makes a difference to our kiddos and to us. So thank you for partnering us. And Miss Lindy, who's been kind of our recruiter, keeps trying to get more of her friends in. She's not here tonight, but that's okay. We'll recognize her as well. And most of you know Jay runs on caffeine, coffee. He always has to get his coffee first. So thank you very much.
Great program. More.
So tonight, I actually want to have Miss Petrosite come up here. And I'm piggybacking from Matt. It was so touching, his presentation of the high school students with the Spanish Club. And the board has graciously, last year, we added a new EL teacher to the district. So Riel has been in our building and she has come in just full of ideas how to fully submerge and help our kids, especially their little young learners, be able to talk to each other, play with each other. So Mr. Day, you're right. We do have to learn each other's languages and how to communicate with each other. So she's going to share with you something that our first grade students have been doing. It's called language enrichment. They learn all kinds of stuff, sign language, Spanish. They learn about different cultures, and they just learn how we're all different, but yet we're all the same. And it's been amazing. So she is going to, with her group, she's got quite a group up here. We were trying to explain to them who the school board was. And we said, there are bosses. They're like, how many bosses do you have? I'm like, yeah, I know. So they're going to come up. You guys ready to come on up? And they're going to do 90% of the talking and share with you some of the things that they're learning this year. And then they're going to put you through a little mini lesson of how they learn together.
This is what this is like the TV on our right, or do you understand this is you see the TVs on both sides and you like so just see here and also okay. So second, I have a clothing and be first over here. Okay. So Bodhi's first and then Teddy. Yep. Thank you. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Brielle Ketcherside. I'm the English language teacher at East Elementary, and I get to teach specialist class also, language enrichment, and I love it. So these are some of our kiddos. They're amazing, and they're so excited to share with you some of the stuff we have learned in my class. So you guys, we're gonna start with a song for you. If you hear some on your face, sorry, don't be your friends. Give that spot for the Pink is rosa, pink is rosa, gris is gray, gris is gray. I love this morning. Shout hooray, hooray, shout hooray, hooray. And then our next couple of slides are kiddos that wanted to participate, but they could not be here. So they actually have videos that they wanted to show you. These are their favorite things about class.
Riker, what's your favorite thing about language enrichment?
Numbers in Spanish.
Can you show us?
Can you show us?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, there's several. I'm sorry.
Riker, what's your favorite thing about language enrichment?
Numbers in Spanish.
Good. Sorry, you have to double click.
Cody, what's your favorite thing about language enrichment class?
Learning other languages.
Cody, what's your favorite thing? Julian, what is your favorite thing about language enrichment class?
Learning about the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. What did you learn about Day of the Dead?
The skeleton decorations.
Awesome. Thank you. Julian, what is your favorite thing about Gentry, what is your favorite thing about language enrichment class?
I like speaking Spanish, and I like counting in Spanish.
Gentry, what is your favorite? Lillian, what's your favorite thing about language enrichment class?
I like counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Lillian, what's your favorite?
Hi, my name is Oliver. I go to Right City East Wildcats. My favorite thing about learning enrichment is counting by numbers in Spanish. I can only count to 10 in Spanish. And here's my sign. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I really like the colors. And I really like the flags that are hanging up in the cafeteria. They are for Guatemala and Mexico. I like that we have learned the colors in Spanish. I like that we count in Spanish and basic. I like that the colors they are pictures of we I like that we learn about the shape of Western the people of this thing comes back. I like learning how to say words in Spanish. Buenos dias is good morning. And my amo Evelyn means my name is Evelyn. I like recording it. There's a Spanish word on the board. Then you need to guess it by going to the recorder that has it in. It has the word in it. I like playing the games and learning Spanish. I also like learning Spanish. I like learning about the colors in Spanish. I like that we say where to say where in Spanish and English. Sister is a mama and grandpa is abuelo and grandma is abuela. I like when we receive the colors on Spanish. Now we would like to teach you some words in Spanish. Repeat after us. What's up? ¿Qué pasa?
¿Qué pasa?
Nothing. Goodbye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Mucho gusto. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
You guys did awesome. Thank you very much. A lot of times people ask why. Our kiddos need to talk to each other. They need to know, where's my yellow crayon? And when a new friend comes in and doesn't understand what the teacher's asking, they now can tell them that word in their language. So for them to be able to learn some sign language allows them to talk to somebody who doesn't have that same language as them. The numbers is so big because obviously we're learning a lot of numbers. So when we're learning math, they can say that's uno, that's dos. Ms. Ketcherside does an amazing job making it fun and game-based. And what's amazing is our building is getting filled with this rich culture of how to talk to people and help them learn and be a part of our community together. So we are very proud of our first graders. I'm very proud of Ms. Ketcherside and having her part of our building. It's just been a wonderful thing to see. And that's why I said, when we install the Spanish Club, I feel like we've got some young Spanish Club members getting ready to join high school and see some things that they can do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. You did so great.
Since you guys were our bosses, that they would get paid.
Oh.
So
Budget constraints. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. No.
Good luck, guys. Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for bringing your little one up. They did a great job. And yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go put them to bed, so that they're not too
There won't be any Spanish in January.
It's a hard act to follow.
I know. Yeah. Like, oh, great. Right.
Eric, will you please close the doors behind you? Thank you, sir. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Wright City High School update. Amy?
I will turn it to Bobby Krista.
How we doing tonight, everybody? Site's going really well. Thursday, third Thursday of the month. A lot of ongoing activities. In fact, today we did pass the fire marshal's life safety walk, so areas A through G are all complete now. Working on the punch list actively through the end of the year, just getting the painting touch-ups, caulk touch-ups, trying to put a bow on it for you guys. The site, on the other hand, still is lot. We have a lot out there yet. From a football field perspective, we can't do striping on the final coat on the track until weather's permit. Same thing for the striping. It takes place after that. Everything east of that as well needs to be completed. So we have the Pranger Mel building, locker room that we're working through. With that, the fencing, everything else, the baseball field that's getting finalized, and then big concrete pours back there on the visitor side to get east of the football field. And then over at the kind of courtyard area between the concession building and the baseball field itself. So that work will resume as weather permits. That was a huge win today to get through with the fire marshal and get life safety on the date that we all expected to happen.
And Bobby, that was for the rest of the areas in the building itself.
That is,
so the entire building is
FANG, the entire building is good to go. So looking forward, again, it really comes down to site finishes and punch. We're going to work as diligently as we can to get out of the way. Testing and balancing will be one of those activities that's kind of ongoing throughout the building. The goal of that, again, is to get out as promptly as we can. The students and staff arrive. A little bit to get through there yet. There's still a few weeks, and usually until a space is conditioned and doors are opening every day, you can't fully dial that in for your systems and functionality, but it'll be an ongoing process. Again, site stuff ongoing. Next slide, please. So these are some final shots. We are doing a little bit of roofing work right now. There's a buckling on the roof where we've known about it. We put in this vent drip edge. It's not a drip edge, but a ventilated edge to draw air into the system. So those roofing modifications are taking place. Site parking lot's been power washed the last couple of days. We've got sweepers out there now. Again, just trying to put a ball on it for you guys to arrive. And that work will continue through the long. Again, we wish there was more green out there. You kind of got half green, half mud. There is some areas where we vegetated that got disturbed with the awning company that had to come in and put those up. All that work's being regraded and touched up here between now and spring. And next slide. This is the footprint where ultimately performance gym would go if you guys move forward. This rain day looks like. Any questions or comments?
Any questions, Aaron?
I don't have any. Thank you.
Kyle?
Thanks, sir.
not to this.
David? No. David, sorry. Beth?
No on this.
Yeah, I don't have any. Okay, so now we got some PCOs. So Amy, you wanna lead us in this conversation?
Sure. So there's some change orders. You can click on it and see there and walk through those. Some are for the coffee bar and countertops. Just that there was a piece missing there. extended general field conditions, and Bobby's here if you have questions regarding that. An emergency shutoff that was needed for the water heaters, and then the overtime that was needed over Thanksgiving break. They've been working around the clock. Our question is always what's best for kids, and we want our kids in there on time in January. So that's always the question that we ask. So that is what that is for.
Thank you.
So any questions on any of the PCOs?
I don't have any.
Kyle?
The egress one with the, that's the water heater. I think that's the one.
The boiler room.
Yeah, the boiler room. So we had to change that because it did not, the egress requirements were not in compliance with state requirements for that, correct?
That's correct. So, I'm sorry, finish your.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, the local fire inspector did not have an issue. Local AHJ did not have an issue. We had the boiler commission. State inspections are usually, they're hard to get, anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. But anyway, after we had a commission, the state inspector came out and wanted us to add a second means of egress to meet state code. Basically, the rule of thumb is anything over, 500 square feet requires a second means of egress, and any boiler putting out more than a million BTUs an hour requires that. And these boilers put out about 3 million BTUs.
Okay, so who had it seems like a pretty black and white state requirement. Who reviewed those requirements before that was put in the design? We had to go back in and put in the egress. And Eric, that might be a question for you.
That's mechanical engineer is the one that does those calculations, yes, and the requirements.
Okay.
And the numbers that they had didn't show that they needed it. I don't know if something changed in the calculation, but the state, was pretty clear. They went back and looked at it and they said, yeah, well, we're going to have it. That's what the engineers.
Okay.
We went back and forth with them to say, yeah, we have to put it in. And we figured out where to put the shutoffs in the exit door.
So I guess my question is, why is the ME not covering this air?
The mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't have the answer for you, but I can go back and talk to them about it. We know that the cost, well, we don't know the full cost yet. We know the cost of emergency shutoffs, and we have close cost on the exit door. So I can, once we have that PCO from Craig, I can go have a discussion with the engineers on it.
And I just got, I'm only waiting on one more cost for the record. I'll get that tomorrow and get that over at Bounce Court.
Yeah, I don't have a clear answer for you on a error, calculation error, or if it's an AHJ, something changed. I don't know.
So I guess one more question, then I'm done. If this is tied to another PCO that we haven't reviewed yet, is it the end of the world if we revisited that with that PCO when it's ready for review?
Taking the emergency stop out, I can live with that. It's not the end of the world.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Dave?
I would recommend that though.
No, I don't have anything.
So when you make the motion, just make sure that's part of your motion.
Yeah.
This is not it. Oh, I apologize. I thought these emergency stops were already in. They're not in.
They're not in yet.
So we know the boiler change means the egress. We're still waiting on cost, but we need approval so we can get these stops in is what Craig's trying.
We have to modify the current structure to do so. If we don't have an approval and it would wait, we would definitely be weekend and Sunday work trying to get this in, which would probably blow the cost of what you're seeing right now. It would probably double or more.
Fair enough. I appreciate the correction. Dave, you have any additional questions?
No.
Beth?
I don't have anything.
I would like us to have a follow-up conversation with the MA to try to recoup some costs on this, because it sounds like a clear miss by them. This is rework to go back in and fix this, and it should have been caught when they were reviewing state requirements.
Okay, I agree, but I think in the
interest of money and time,
get the project done, I think we approve it tonight, and then that's a follow-up conversation we need to have. Okay, so the motion that's in the board packet is to approve change order number 26 as presented, which includes 119, 121, 123, 120. And then the CCD that, okay, we're not doing.
We're not doing that
CCD,
yet.
We're not doing that this month. Okay. All right, so those particular PCOs, that's what it includes. And so so that's what we need a motion for.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
There's a motion and second. And the discussion item that Kyle brought up is for 121 is to have the conversation with the mechanical engineer regarding covering the cost of that due to an error.
Would this also be for CCD XX?
But that's not, we're not considering that.
I know we're not considering it, but when we're looking at notes as to what to bring up to the mechanical engineer.
Yeah, it sounds like this isn't the only
Yeah.
cost of it.
Okay. So let's vote on this first, and we'll talk about CCD access real quick. All right. So we got a motion and second, along with some instructions for Amy regarding 121. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 5-0. Now, the next thing is CCD XX. And I think what I heard the board say is we need to have a conversation with the mechanical engineer regarding covering the cost of this due to an error. Is that what I'm hearing the board's direction to Amy is?
Yeah, yes, I just want that it's not being brought to us this month. Correct. So we
Correct.
don't need, like, this isn't holding anything up on your guys' end.
No, so
Okay.
the way the CCD works, it's construction change directive. Once we get that directive to proceed, we'll proceed with the
Okay.
work and then deal with the dollars later.
Okay, cool, thanks.
You bet.
All right. Any more questions on CCD XX? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is East Addition construction project.
Yeah, so Jeremy, are you talking about?
Yeah, so on Friday, we had a bid opening. Brianna and Eric and myself were here. We had 4 contractors, and you can see the bids that we received on the 13th. Based off those bids, we had an interview. Again, Brianna, Eric, and myself interviewed with Hankins. Bond has done some work with Hankins as well. And then after that interview, after talking with Bond, I contacted at least 3 or 4 references from other school districts that work with Hankins. Based off of all 3 of those things, plus the low bid coming in at 1.77, we're making a motion to recommend Hankins for the East Elementary Edition.
Okay, I had an open question to Eric regarding Aspire in the 29, I guess about the $30,000. The thing I asked Eric before the meeting was, given the fact that Aspire did the work over there, would we there's 2 questions I had for him. First time was delegated design. And, that kind of bit us a little bit on some stuff. So he's going to answer that question. And then the second question is, for the extra $30,000, would it benefit us to hire Aspire in terms of the fact that they worked over there already? And would we ultimately save money in the long run? So, Eric, you want to address those 2 questions?
Sure. So, delegated design, the only thing in there is the sprinkler system, which is standard operational for any new construction. We lay out the pipes, or the engineers do, and then the actual sprinkler contractor would size it and space out the heads. And
so anticipated cost for that, so because we don't know the cost for that yet,
the cost for that will be included in the bid.
So that would be included in the 1770. Okay. Any other questions?
You could ask the contractors in the room, but that for sprinklers, that is very standard. It's in that number.
It's always delegated design. Typically, always delegated design.
Okay, so the second one is it worth $30,000 for their knowledge? The biggest issues we had with Aspire was on their electrical side. And the electrical contractor they use, they would not use again, so they wouldn't be part of this. If you pick them, they wouldn't be, that knowledge isn't there. I think the rest of the building is so simple that I don't think there's any gain on knowledge. to have them versus hanging.
So basically, it's not worth $30,000 to go with this.
Not that I can see.
Those are the two questions I had. Does anybody have any additional questions? Amy, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is to go with Jeremy's recommendation to go with Tim's after his interview and then being the lowest bid.
And just for everybody's edification, the money would come out of Fund 4 and we would not sell additional lease purchase bonds, correct?
Correct.
So that's the way this would get paid for. So, any motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I heard 5-0. The next item on the agenda is academic achievement and APR reports. Amy?
And I'm gonna turn it over. I feel like I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Holly Broadway Yates and Dr. Duffy.
Thank you. I want to start just by revisiting the academic achievement report last month as promised, and coming back to it and comparing how we did with the state now that we're allowed to do that. And then there was also an ask of the board to look at some cohort data. So we've added that as well. If you want to go to the next, Elizabeth. So again, this is our EOC and MAP test data from last school year. And what we've done is we've added the state average comparison and the comparison by cohort. And then I kind of talked about this last month, so I'll very briefly touch on the next steps from this. I'm going to keep on going. We'll start with West. Looking at third grade, the only difference between last month and this month is we added those last pink columns, which added in the state average data for last school year. And so for third grade ELA, we are pretty much right in line with the state. And in third grade math, we are above the state. You can keep going, Elizabeth. In fourth grade, our ELA was above the state, and so was math. And if you go to the next one, we have some cohort data here. So last year, our fourth graders scored equal to the state in ELA and above the state in math. So when they were in the previous year. And then in fifth grade last year, our ELA was below the state average. Our math was just slightly below, and then science was also slightly below in fifth grade. And then looking at the fifth grade cohort, fifth grade did improve their scores the both previous years, and they were above the state average in both ELA and math as a cohort. And so then the next slide is just showing, so remembering that fifth grade was still at West at this point. This slide is not MPI. This is showing you proficient and advanced percentage for West compared with the state. And so looking at this, you can see that third grade scored proficient and advanced was higher than the state average. Fourth grade was higher. And then in fifth grade, ELA was below the state. And then math and science were kind of in line with where the state was. And so we'll go on to the middle school. Looking at sixth grade, adding that state comparison in sixth grade, ELA and math were both below the state average in sixth grade last year. And then looking at sixth grade as a cohort, ELA has had a 3-year decline for this cohort through the years, as has math. And then seventh grade, adding in that state average, seventh grade ELA was slightly above the state and math was below. And then looking at seventh grade as a cohort, kind of like sixth grade 7th grade has been declining as a cohort over the last several years, as has math. So in both ELA and in math. Looking at 8th grade, adding that state average comparison, 8th grade ELA was below the state, math was well above the state, and then science was below. And looking at 8th grade as a cohort, ELA has had a 3-year decline, but last year, even with that decline, we were still pretty in line with where the state was. Math has also followed the state trend, but it's kind of been up and down as a trend. And then Wright City Middle School, again, this is proficient and advanced scores, not MPI, and compared to the state. So 8th grade math is definitely a highlight, as is 7th grade ELA. 6th grade ELA and math are of a concern. And then going on to high school, starting with Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So Algebra 1 was above the state and Algebra 2 was well above the state. So that is definitely a celebration. English 2 was slightly below the state, Bio was below the state, and Government was above the state average. And then looking at Wright City High School, the proficient advanced percentage compared to the state, definitely we need to celebrate Algebra 2 and Government, and even Algebra 1 being above the state. What we're looking at here is, so in 2022, sorry, got my pages mixed up. So this shows the difference of MPI scores compared to the state over the last several years. So we're going to look at 22, 23, and 24. So in 2022, looking at this, if an area is green, we were above the state MPI. And so this shows that in 2022, 11 out of 19 areas scored above the state. And if we go on to the next, that'll show us 2023. So in 2023, we had 14 out of 19 above the state average. And then the next slide shows last year. Last year, we had 8 out of 19 that were above the state average.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So does this have anything to do with like the ability to grow more? Like, I know when we had talked last year, we and it's been on the news, like the schools that are already high achieving aren't going to have as many growth opportunities. Is this reflective at all of that?
I believe so. And when we get into APR, we'll talk even more about that growth. So yes, we'll get more into that. Now this again, so this is our MAP and EOC achievement. So these scores are how we performed on those assessments compared to the state. But when we get into talking about APR, and this is a piece of that, that's where the new growth calculation comes into play. So
thank you.
So then final considerations and next steps. I covered these last time, but again, 8 out of 19 assessed areas were above the state. In special education, 10 out of 19 scored above the state. Our EL students show quite a performance gap in 17 out of the 19 assessed areas. Algebra 2 demonstrated performance significantly above the state average. So again, a big celebration there. And then district-wide, our science assessments show a need for some further growth and improvement. And if you go to the next one, talking about next steps, we've talked about some of these, but we have added building improvement goals for special education in each. So as a part of each building improvement plan, continuing to work on focusing on how to best support our growing EL population. I'm going to talk more about some of this in the APR presentation, but looking at as we're adapting our curriculum and adopting new resources, making sure that we have good EL resources and even an EL component as a part of that. Really focusing on professional development, which I will talk more about in the next presentation. And just continuing, there are lots of good things going on. So continuing our data-driven instruction.
Hey, before you go there, does anybody have any additional questions or comments regarding what Holly just presented? Go. If you got any questions, now it's time to ask them.
So for those cohorts where we have seen a steady 3-year decline, I assume the next steps cover kind of some extra analysis into what's going on for those groups and how we can help to strengthen their skills to continue to improve.
So as part of when I talk kind of what our focus for professional development is for next year in this next presentation, then yes, I think that that's going to connect the pieces of what we're going to do to address that decline.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on to the next presentation?
Oh, that's mine.
All right, fair enough. All right.
Okay, so APR. I wanted to start this by really quickly. I know we know this, but just reminding the connection to MSIP. So MSIP is the state system that was created to outline expectations for districts. And then APR that we're getting ready to look at is the measure of a district's performance under MSIP. So if you want to go to the next one, so a little bit deeper into understanding APR. APR is meant to measure our progress towards the standards that were adopted by the State Board of Education, and it is the primary factor in classification of school districts. Dr. Duffy was going to talk just really quickly on how the points have changed over the years for APR. Go back one. Yeah, I think we went one too far.
So
there we go.
MSIP 6 started in 2022, and you can see where the total amount of points for the school districts are going to be 180. In 2023, that did change. It grew 12 points because they did add kind of that achievement growth part to the 2023 APR. Now this year, last year's APR score for 2024, it did grow because they did added a response to standards part to our APR. And basically that's where our school district gets to kind of tell our story of the practices, our CSIP strategies that we're implementing in class and kind of going from there. So this year is the first year that we're going to be kind of graded on the 200 full points of APR.
Okay. So then on the next one, thank you. So the two big measures in here, the performance metrics include the Success Ready performance measures and the follow-up measures. So we're talking about our assessments that we're giving at the high school, our work keys, our ACT, our ASVAB work keys. I think I already said work keys. And then the advanced coursework or career training that we provide. And then the follow-up, which is how we follow up with our graduates to look at what they ended up doing post high school. And then the continuous improvement metrics include our improvement planning measures, so our CSIP, our core data submissions, our audit report, all of those pieces of documentation. And then the Success Ready continuous improvement measures are where we're accountable for our attendance, our ICAPS, and then our KEA, which is our kindergarten assessment. Some updates to the 2024 MSIP 6 APR. We're going to talk more about this later in the presentation, but that achievement growth update that kind of changed some scoring things. The Success Ready students piece is of note with this is this is data that is included from the prior year's graduates. So really, it almost feels like it's data from 2 years ago. So as we are doing that work, we really don't see it reflected until 2 years later. So I think that's of note. Response to standards now included in APR as they had planned, and I think it's Dr. Duffy that talks about that a little bit later. And then the composite score is a new piece. And we will talk more about the composite score here in the next slide, but it really is just now, as part of the classification recommendations, it averages 3 years of APR data. And so, oh, thank you. So again, this is the first time that we've been given a composite score. And this just talks again about how it represents 3 years of our APR data and then how they average those scores. We can go to the next one. The 2024 APR includes a single year report and that 3-year composite. The single year APR contains data just from the previous school year, and then the 2024 APR composite is that new composite score that we're going to talk even more about. And I think it's important that the APR is one of many data points for stakeholders to consider. And on the next slide, this just shows the timeline of how those composite scores are going to come. And I think it's really important to know and be reminded that this year, the composite score will not be used to lower a district's classification. And it's because that first year of 2022 is kind of a pilot year for it. Okay. Going on to the next. All right, so we're going to go in deeper to this, but in an overview, our APR score for 2024 was 80%. As we're looking at the different areas, almost all of the areas are scored in 4 levels when we're talking about APR. On track, 75% is the expected performance. So being at or on or above 75% means that the schools or the students are successful. There's room to grow, but that's expected performance. And so you're going to see the designations of target, on track, approaching, and floor. And of note on this too, districts who have earned 70% or more of the points possible have reached accredited level. So we're at 80%. So we can go to the next. District status scores and levels. So the way to look at this as a district, looking at the academic achievement status for English language arts, this breaks it down for all students and then also student group. So student group is our ELs, our special education students, free and reduced. Those are our student groups. And so as you can see, as a district, we are on track for all students in ELA, and then we are designated as approaching for student group. And I won't read through all of these for you, but that's how this is how it's showing you broken down. So if you go to the next slide, so we wanted to show you the district designation over the last 3 years and how it has changed. So for ELA and compared to group, we last year went from on track to approaching in our student group. Math has held pretty strong with on track. Science, the last 2 years were designated as approaching, and then you can see social studies has hung strong with being on track. The next slide. So we're going to break this down by school. At the high school, ELA and social studies over the last 3 years, so ELA and social studies maintain a target designation initially, but then shift to on track. Math consistently remains on track. Science shifts from on track to approaching in 24. Science student group improves to on track in 23, but then reverts to approaching in 24. And then we'll look at middle. Yeah. So ELA shows improvement in 23, but then declines in 24. Math and science remain mostly in the approaching category. ELA student group maintained on-track status in 23, but dropped in 24. And then math student group improves to on-track in 23, but then reverted back to approaching last year. And then looking at West, ELA and math generally remain on track. Science shows a decline in 23, recovered some in 24. And then student group shows more variability with some moving to approaching. Okay, some more considerations when looking at APR. Again, those success ready measures, I just want to point out again that when we're looking at those CCR assessments, it's really the prior year graduates data. So just a reminder that that's how that's figured in. And then that academic achievement growth. So this is 24% of a district's APR. They replaced the the previous continuous scoring method with this new one. And so in 2024, the new scoring method kind of put districts in quartiles is kind of how it ended up looking. And so 25% of districts were put into one of each of these categories. And we will talk more about that again here in a minute. So if you want to go to the next one. So this is showing how growth points are designated in the different content areas. So these are DESE's numbers, not ours. Growth in MSIP is calculated using the Missouri Growth Model. And growth measures for MSIP 6 are determined by conducting a statistical analysis of all valid MAP score pairs. A valid MAP score pair is a score from grades 4 through 8 with a score from the prior year and grade level. So a 4th grade score with a valid 3rd grade score from the prior year, both from the same student, would be a valid MAP score pair. And then on the next slide, so academic achievement growth as a district, our numbers show that English and social studies for all students are on track, while math and science for student groups are approaching. English for the student group is emerging. So that's how we look in growth as a district. And then if you go to, continuous improvement, we do very well except for attendance. We received 0 points for attendance. So this is showing us our total continuous improvement. And we did some looking and questioning of, well, how do we get 1 point for attendance? You know, how are we getting 0? And so to receive to get 2 points for attendance, then 80% of our students have to be at school 90% of the time to get 2 points. And we have not met that. So then the next slide, this is a 3-year review. And remember, this is the first year for that composite score. So continuous improvement scores are consistently high across the years. Performance shows a slight increase from 22 to 23, but then decreased in 24. And looking at the range of the 3 years, the overall percentage of points earned was the highest in 23. And then the next slide, talking about that composite score again. So we earned a composite score of 82.8. And remember that those districts who have earned 70% or more of the points possible are labeled as accredited. And I'm going to get a little bit in the weeds here, but I believe that 70% is important because as I've looked at this and as I've talked to other districts, and you know, after APR came out, I believe that the change in the growth calculation was intentional to push some districts above that 70% threshold. And so I am happy to go deeper with anybody that wants to have that conversation with me, but I think that may be what happens there. So next slide. Yeah, so I think we can definitely celebrate that we are one of 18 districts in that 80% tier. So I think that's worth celebrating. I do think though that, and I promise that I wouldn't take too long on this, but I think that growth calculation is ultimately going to cause districts to fluctuate in their APR year to year. That's what I foresee happening. I'm kind of curious what the future holds for that calculation, but we will see. And then if you go to the next one, APR by building. So each building also generates an APR. For East Elementary, it's a little different. They only have 2 metrics, and that is the KEA, which is that kindergarten assessment. And basically for that, we just have to have assessed enough of our students, a certain percentage of our students is how we get the points on that, and then attendance. Building APRs really are just used to help determine focus areas. Principals can use those to help determine focus areas and areas for improvement. So for East, again, so this report focuses on 2 main areas, performance and continuous improvement. And so East does not get a performance score, but for continuous improvement, you can see how they've done. And again, attendance is what knocked that score down. And if you go to the next slide, so this report highlights the strengths in KEA, but definitely does, again, show a need for improvement in attendance. And then let's look at West. So this is, you know, the last several years at West, and you can compare them, but again, attendance really sticks out here as well. And then on the next slide, looking at growth for West. So growth measures for MSIP 6, again, are determined by conducting a statistical analysis of all valid MAP score pairs. Our student groups definitely have an opportunity for improvement in the growth category. And then looking at middle school, you can compare them, but performance improved from 22 to 23, but did decline last year. Continuous improvement remained constant in 22 and 24, but kind of peaked in 23. Overall, 2023 was the highest. And then the next slide shows growth. So approaching indicates areas that need some improvement. On track shows some good progress. High school. Performance scores are consistently high across the years. And then again, that CI, we need to improve our attendance. Overall percentage points slightly decreased over the years. And then on the next one, mostly on track with some approaching and target areas. And then Brian's going to touch quickly on the state, conference, and local district comparisons.
So looking at these 3 graphs, you can see from 2022, if you look at the 95 school districts that were at the 60% of their APR points, that 95 from then 2023 went down as the 70% column goes up. So you kind of see that shift all the way to the right throughout the years of continuous district growth throughout the state. And this is a view of our kind of school districts around our area and where we are at comparative to them, and also with our conference schools as well. So this is a 3-year view of our conference comparisons. And then the other slide is a view of just the local school districts that are around us and where we are as far as APR compared to their APR and where we're at within the school districts around the state.
So then I would like to talk about some takeaways and then touch on some plans on how to address the areas that need addressing. So on the next slide, there we go. So just a reminder that APR won't be used for classifying school districts this year. I think it's important to remember and know that APR is one systems level metric that contains self-reported and DESE collected data, but it does not contain all data used at the local level. Really locally, we need to use the APR to prioritize our improvement efforts. And then, you know, we use it to highlight successes, and then they also, and DESE puts this out too, we shouldn't use APR to compare with reports prior to 2022 and always consider the context. And if you want to go to the last slide, so some key takeaways, attendance, I want to talk about that first. So it's very apparent that we need to work on attendance, and I want to say that we have been. I know that at the building level, our buildings are following the attendance pyramid of interventions that we created that was shared out recently with the board. They are working to support attendance any way they can, whether it's buying a charger for a phone so the alarm goes off in the morning, to buying an alarm clock, to working with the students and the families on individualized attendance success plans. A piece of that, in some cases where it is appropriate, they're even with the students helping track their attendance. And so, and then at the district level, you've probably seen we've tried to put out some promotions for the importance of school attendance. Sometimes well received, sometimes not, but really I think it's just re-educating people on the importance of attendance. And, you know, if we can show the negative impact that missing school really has on a student, and sometimes it helps to see what chronic absenteeism really is. And so we are really working to improve the attendance at all levels to get that 80%. And then the college and career readiness, the high school MAT and the counselors have been working to appropriately match their students with the correct assessments, and they're rock stars at following up with the graduates afterwards. And just remembering that it's going to show a couple of years later is when we see that data. Science is across the board is needing to be a focus. And so as we are, I'm going to speak to curriculum and resources, but as we are working to adopt the new curriculum cycle, and as part of that resource adoption, science is one of the forefront pieces that we have of that, and that will be coming to the board soon. Subgroups are Dr. Duffy, is working hard with our EL specialists on how to best support in that area. And just recently, we've been able to, through our Title III overflow, be able to purchase a new resource that we are excited to help in that area. And with special education, adding those goals, special education specific goals to our building improvement plans as well. Curriculum and resources. So I know I've touched on it a few times, but the updated curriculum cycle with embedded as part of that cycle, resource review, pilot, and adoption is going to be huge in this work. So not only making sure that our curriculum is aligned, but also giving our teachers the tools and our students the resources to learn the best way we can provide them. Heat maps, we use these a lot. So I spoke to the data-driven instruction. So our buildings are really using those. So as we get the map and EOC data and their Edulastic data, they are digging in for what are the standards that we are struggling in, and comparing that to how many times does that get covered on the assessment, the state assessment. And I mean, they're constantly in that data and intervening where they need to with that. Continued assessment work, which I'm actually going to tie into those 4 corollary questions. So looking at our plan for next year for professional development, really trying to focus in on, as I've looked at, you know, what are our needs with the curriculum work and the assessment work and the differentiated instruction and RTI. And as I've been working on how to plan that with next year's budget, it all comes back to we are a PLC, and those are our 4 corollary questions. What do we want students to know? That's our curriculum work. How do we know if they know it? That's the assessment work. What do we do if they don't know it? That's the differentiated instruction and the RTI. And then what do we do if they do know it? Making sure that we're providing enrichment opportunities for our students who are there. And so I've been working with Solution Tree. Solution Tree is kind of the industry standard when it comes to PLC on having a plan for next year, not just the professional development. There's a component for our building administrators, for our teaching staff throughout the year, but then also embedded coaching. And in the meantime, as that's next year, we've already got the RPDC, who is coming in starting in January in our elementaries and our middle school, and providing on-site coaching for RTI in the classroom. And I'm happy if if you want to, you know, talk in more detail about what those pieces look like. I'm happy to go further in detail if you would like that.
Okay.
That's all I have. If you have questions.
So first of all, thank you very much for that detailed report. I know some of that information was, you know, you had to do a lot of digging to get it. And so I appreciate the effort you put into that. That was very good. Appreciate it.
And Dr. Duffy, he's the
Oh, I'm
data
sorry,
guy.
Dr. Duffy.
Good job, Dr. Duffy.
Yeah, maybe I'll get you a seat up here. So you can
Data guru right there.
data guru. Aaron, any questions?
I don't, but thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Kyle?
No, I mean, you hit on it. Obviously, our performance took a hit from last year, but I would argue, so it did across the state too, which was, I think, in our favor. You know, our performance spans a spectrum from building to building. You know, the high school has done an excellent job over the last 3 years. You know, you look at the local district comparisons, and you look at the high school. I know Mr. Brooks had a comparison for the high school. We'll be looking deeper into the APR data. We truly are competing with Francis Allen Winsville at the high school level, which is really exciting, because that is proving that as a district, you know, there is a path for us to be more in a peer level with them instead of looking up to them like the big school districts next to us. So I see that as a promising sign of the future, but we have to focus back in on the hits we've taken. And you already talked to it, but we cannot leave points off the table with attendance and getting 0. Countless studies show that butts and seats have a positive impact on scores. So with the attendance hierarchy pyramid, I'm optimistic that we can see an improvement this year and the years going forward.
We're trying. They're really working hard on attendance in the building.
Dave, anything? No. Beth?
Well, I'm just going to quickly echo what you guys have said. Thank you so much to both of you for putting all of the data together. I really appreciate the cohort views and then also the comparisons with our conference and area schools. I think that's so helpful to see. I feel like based on what you shared tonight and in talking to Dr. Salvo, I feel like you guys have a good plan in place to keep moving these things forward and address some of these areas. And Kyle said it. I also have the high school CSIP report pulled up, and I just think we had such great results when we look at our APR for Wright City High School. I think we were top for our conference, and then as Kyle said, just behind Francis Allen Leesville School when you look at area schools. So those are awesome results. I was really proud to see that.
Couple comments. For whatever reason, again, we're seeing the the trend that we've seen for several years, or whatever reason we have that dip in the middle school. And so I think that's something we need to address. Secondly, we got budget season coming up on us, and I think when we do our budget workshop in May or June or whenever we do, I'd like to see what budget items you're targeting to address these things, because obviously the question here is, what resources does the administration need, and how do we prioritize those resources so that you get what you need to turn this plan into an action. So I look forward to the budgeting process and where all that goes.
Good, there'll be some ads.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, which is good, and then obviously then we'll have to figure out the resource based upon our constraints. Okay, any other final thoughts before we move on to the next item in the agenda? Okay, next item in the agenda is evidence-based grading. I'm going to turn this over to Amy, and then if you have any additional questions, then Holly will answer them.
Okay, so as you know, prior to Holly and I's arrival last year, I commend the district. They launched a pilot of evidence-based grading, and with any pilot throughout a district, the goal of the district is aimed to explore new approaches, gather feedback, you make an informed decision about the best path forward. So when I started in July, one of the first things I started doing was gathering feedback, knowing this was a path the district was going on. I asked for any survey data. I asked for emails on evidence-based. I immediately went and talked with Taylor, and I started immediately gathering feedback because it was a pilot. And it was important to me. It was important for me as the new superintendent coming in to know, are people loving it? Is it not going well? Because it's a pilot, and when you come in, you honor the work that's before you. So I wanted to know from the people at hand. So over the past several months since I started, I've had the opportunity and the honor to meet with our teachers and parents and even our students. I had a student group at the middle school that I specifically went and met with. I gathered their insights and feedback. And like our speakers tonight, a common feedback and theme that I heard was just difficulty understanding it. Talking with our students, I had a few students say, I got in trouble, and we kind of talked through that, but I really wanted to hear it from them, because the goal of a pilot, is to gather feedback, and if it's not doing what we want it to do, then you change course, you change path, and that's not a bad thing. That's what a pilot is. The important thing with a pilot or even any type of instruction is you get feedback, and then you take action based on the feedback that you receive. So based on that feedback, we reconvened our evidence-based committee, and we kind of put forth a couple of different options, to gather feedback from that committee. So based on that and the feedback that I've received, it would be my recommendation at this time to discontinue evidence-based at the middle school and from stopping that from going to the high school at this time. I will say I believe in evidence-based practices, but at this time, I think it's best to kind of go back and focus on what I would say the foundation of those 4 corollary questions. So it's good work. I think we're just not there yet, and I'd like to kind of reset, especially with new administration, to kind of see where we're at, gather feedback, and then move forward. But my recommendation is to discontinue this even at semester and start back with the traditional grading system next semester.
Any questions? The only comment I will make is I went to that meeting in January, and I think Aaron was there too. And the amount of work the teachers had to do the data entry, and we kind of investigated what can we do to help the teachers. Could we hire somebody? And at the end of the day, it just wasn't going to work for the teachers either. So, you know, to the public comments we got tonight, I think those are pretty spot on. So I support what the superintendent is recommending.
I will also say it's a CSIP goal to keep our staff and to retain staff. So I think to keep our staff, I think that's another component. So looking at it multifaceted, that's where I'm coming from.
So need a motion to discontinue both Wright City Middle School and Wright City High School from evidence-based grading, reporting, and assessment model at the end of the first semester.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 5-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is policy JHDE. Amy, you want to quickly?
I will actually let Holly talk about this policy.
All right, so it's just recommended that we have a behavioral risk assessment policy because we already have all of these things in place. It's just good to have the policy in place for it. So we did create our behavior risk assessment. We call it threat assessment team at the building level and district level. We had that team trained and we have implemented the behavioral risk assessment. And this policy just outlines basically what the team looks like and just how we're trained and what that looks like. So we have this in place. We just don't have a policy for it, and MSBA recommends that we have the policy.
Any questions on policy JHDE? And your recommendation, Dr. Salvo, is to approve it?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Need a motion to approve and adopt policy JHDE as presented?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 5-0. Second reading of the various policies. Does anybody want to bring anything up? Okay, I need a motion to approve the second reading of MSBA's 2024C updates for EBBC, GB1, GBE, GCBDA, GDBDA, IGBA-1, IGBE-1, ILA, JFCL, JG, D1D-AP1, and IGB-AP1 as presented.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Second.
There's a motion and second. Any more questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 5-0. CSIP reports. Middle school, any questions?
We have board of directors.
Board of directors, Mary would have killed me.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I kick you under
So, thank you, I appreciate that. And I apologize for that. So Mary obviously has asked for us to nominate her for the MSBA Board of Directors for the 25-26 school year. And so this is a document that the Board of Education needs to approve and get sent in, which Elizabeth will do immediately tomorrow, assuming we approve it. So that we're on her good side. So anyway, just need a motion to nominate Mary Graper for the MSBA Board of Directors for 25-26.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I heard 5-0. CSIP reports. Any additional questions on the middle school?
Yeah, I want to revisit middle school real quick. So the current testing levels that we're seeing for ELA, coupled with what we just reviewed from the APR, Taylor, you have a unique cohort on your hand in just general ELA issues that are continue to seemingly be ongoing year over year. Holly, I know you provided some additional context to what central office is currently doing to provide surge support for Taylor, but with the potential staffing constraints and looking at it for next year, is next year fast enough? Is this something that we are also looking at semester as well, just because this coupled with what we just reviewed in APR, I think this is our one of our biggest constraints in the district right now.
So Taylor and I sit down monthly right now and look at their data and how her students are performing on the standards. I guess, yes, we are trying to intervene now with what we have.
Just to kind of speak to a little bit, Kyle, our current reading intervention and I speak daily. We have RSPs, so reading success plans going on for the first time in the middle school, which I think is helpful for kids to get their reading interventions met, because we know that is a foundation for a lot of our ELA scores. And so we are looking at adding a reading course versus just pull out sections. So 15-minute interventions, we're going to a actual reading block. So they'll get a reading course plus an ELA class for some of those kiddos that need those intensified interventions. That's coming second semester. So we are definitely doing things to target that area. As a school, we've kind of shifted our impact team to being all teachers of reading and writing, because we see that as a deficit as well in all of our kids. And so even in the areas of math, how are we reading and writing in math? So it is something that we are very focused on.
And that's something that the RPDC, when they start coming in January, that they're wanting to support with is how are we supporting this in all of our classrooms there? And then also, like Taylor mentioned, we have a lot of students on reading success plans right now with one interventionist, and so our EL teacher there has been also trying to help intervene and support in this area. So it really is something that the building is taking on and trying to address as a whole unit.
And the building already had the interventionist prior to fifth grade moving.
For 1 year, yes. Last year was our first year.
Okay. Yeah, trust me, I'm not trying to super focus in on the middle school. It's no secret that the middle school has been our constraint historically for a very, very long time, coupled with a cohort, which, no one cohort's the same, that has shown a struggle since coming over from West. Does not help.
Any more questions on the middle school? East? High school? Special ed? Early childhood and PAT? West? And then central office attendance. Any questions on that?
The only thing that I'm going to bring up, just because our high school's at a floor right now for attendance, so I know we have a great plan in place that we're working. It's just this is about the time last year that we started to see the dip. So I'm still optimistic for next semester, but floor means no attendance points for EPR.
So does Warren County R3 have 0 in attendance too on their APR? I don't know. That's because that's been a county problem. I mean,
it's
we've
been
always
a
said it's been a
nationwide problem. It's not Wright City or the county. It's, I mean, they
But when you compare
it on
Warren
60
County,
minutes.
but when you compare Warren County to the state, we are significantly below the average, significantly below.
Well, there's only so much that people in buildings can do if it's not being reinforced at home. You don't go to school, you don't go to work. So that's what, the trend you set for your student. If it's okay to miss school, then you're telling them it's okay to miss work when they become an adult and then they live in your basement.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't agree with the 90%, 90% of the time, 90, because if I showed up to work that much, I would have been fired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the number, I mean, the assessment's wrong, right? I mean, it needs to be something different because, I'm expected to be work 99% of the time, and if I take a sick day, well, then I'm docked a vacation day. So, I mean, what they're expecting of us and what the real world, I think there's a difference there. Now, the real world is more strict. And I think the question becomes, what is the answer? And I don't know what the answer is, but.
Well, we're held accountable for it, but we really don't have teeth to enforce it. So as I've had conversations, with the juvenile office and whatnot, it's not a top priority for them. They're dealing with other things, and honestly, it's that they'll even go as far as saying it's a school problem. And so it is hard to enforce when we really don't have teeth to enforce.
Well, we do. So, I mean, right now there's this concept of social promotion, right? So if a student's missing 20 days or whatever, and yet we're still promoting them to the next grade, the teeth that we have is, now wait a minute, your kid didn't show up to school, ergo, he or she did not learn something, ergo, they shouldn't be promoted to the next grade, right? Now there are bad sides to that, right? I mean, again, there's the other issues if the kids are held back, what's the downside to that, right? But there are those social promotion issues, and I don't know if that's something, I mean, tonight's not the night to delve into this too deep, but at some point you should have that conversation with Amy and says, do we, from a promotion perspective, do we start, having that conversation with parents? If your kid don't show up, he or she isn't, going to the next grade unless they go to summer school and make up the material or something, but that would be your team.
Unfortunately, I don't even know if that concept was being executed when I was in school. I think it's outdated.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the extensional argument that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on the CSEP reports? By the way, to the building principals in the room, we appreciate what you're doing on the attendance and what you're trying and stuff like that. So whatever we said about it, we appreciate your efforts. So don't think that we're
having some very difficult conversations on the phone that's not always well received.
Yeah. So,
and we're pushing them to say we got to keep doing it because at some point we do have to have the difficult conversation. We can't keep saying COVID changed it. So we have to have it, and this is the year we're doing it. And so they're getting, and the teachers are getting the brunt of that. So they are working hard and they're making those phone calls, even though.
Yeah. So we appreciate what you're doing. I mean, we're just as frustrated as you are, and it shows up in an APR, and then and that's something that we need to address. But again, we do appreciate what you're doing. So
I'm sure you guys have some fun Kyle attendance comment bingo cards that you guys have. You guys are
okay. Moving on. Does anybody want to look at employment? Make sure you're not related to anybody before you. Okay. Other than that, does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I heard 5-0. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into closed session. I need a motion to go into closed session in accordance with 610-021 of the revised statutes of Missouri to discuss 1, legal actions, 3, personnel. Do we still have personnel?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and 13, individually identifiable personnel records. I need that motion going to closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Roll call starting with Austin. Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, I have 7:39.